Marie Antoinette, one of history's most infamous queens of France, known for her extravagant outfits, towering hairstyles, and a life of opulence, she remains a fascinating yet tragic figure. But was she truly the heartless aristocrat the revolutionaries made her out to be? Or was she just a victim of circumstance? Join us as we delve into the life of the last queen of France before the revolution, a woman loved, loathed, and ultimately doomed. Early life. Born in 1755 in Austria, Marie Antoinette was the 15th child of the powerful Habsburg Empress Maria Theresa. Despite growing up in one of Europe's most prestigious courts, young Marie was often described as simple-minded. She struggled with reading, writing, and even speaking foreign languages. At the age of 10, she still had difficulty writing in her own native language, German. However, those who knew her personally spoke of a charming and sweet girl who had a deep love for music and the arts. Marie's destiny was sealed early in life. To solidify the alliance between Austria and France, she was engaged to the French Dauphin, who would later become King Louis XVI. At just 14 years old, she left behind her homeland to marry a man she barely knew, in a kingdom that would soon turn against her. Transformation into a queen. The French court was a world of excess, rigid etiquette, and intense scrutiny. Upon her arrival in France, Marie Antoinette underwent an extreme makeover. Her Austrian style was deemed unrefined, her teeth were straightened, and she was trained in the strict customs of Versailles. She was expected to be the ultimate symbol of French grace and fashion, a role that would later come back to haunt her. At 14, she married the 15-year-old Dauphin, and 2 years later, she became Queen of France. The young couple's marriage was awkward and distant. Louis was an introverted man who preferred reading and locksmithing, while Marie was lively and social. Their inability to consummate the marriage for 7 years led to wild speculation across Europe. Some even believed the king was physically deformed and incapable of fulfilling his royal duty. Finally, after an intervention by Marie's brother, Emperor Joseph II, the issue was resolved, and Marie gave birth to her first child in 1778. Life at court and lavish spending, with a lackluster marriage and immense wealth at her disposal, Marie Antoinette found solace in fashion, parties, and extravagant entertainment. She became the ultimate trendsetter, working closely with her designer Rose Burton to create jaw-dropping outfits. She introduced towering powdered wigs, elaborate gowns, and even a hairstyle that featured a model battleship to celebrate a French naval victory. Her style was imitated across Europe, but it also fueled resentment. Marie Antoinette's excessive spending was no secret. She spent millions on dresses, jewels, and the embellishment of her personal retreat, the Petit Trianon. Her annual clothing budget alone was the equivalent of $3.6 million today, often exceeding that amount. This, combined with her love for gambling and extravagant parties, earned her the nickname, Madame Deficit. However, she was not entirely indifferent to the suffering of the poor. She donated generously to charities, adopted orphaned children, and even refused to take revenues from the Queen's belt tax, knowing that the poorest in society couldn't afford it. But in the eyes of the struggling people, her lavish lifestyle was unforgivable. Rising tensions and the revolution. By the late 1780s, France was crumbling under financial mismanagement, war debts, and widespread famine. As bread prices skyrocketed, hunger and frustration turned into open rebellion. The infamous phrase, "let them eat cake," was falsely attributed to Marie Antoinette, but it became a symbol of how out of touch the monarchy seemed. In 1789, the Estates General met to discuss raising taxes, but commoners, who represented 95% of the population, were continuously overruled by the clergy and nobility. Fed up, they held their own meeting at a royal tennis court, vowing to create a fair constitution. Shortly after, on July 14, 1789, the Bastille was stormed, marking the beginning of the French Revolution. By October of that year, a mob of thousands marched to Versailles demanding bread. They stormed the palace, and Marie Antoinette barely escaped by fleeing to the king's chambers. Forced to move to the Tuileries Palace in Paris, she was placed under heavy surveillance. Even then, she still believed the monarchy could survive the crisis. Attempted escape and imprisonment. In 1791, Marie and Louis attempted a daring escape, disguising themselves as commoners. But the plan failed. Louis was recognized from his face on French currency, and the family was arrested just 30 miles from freedom. From that moment on, the people saw them not as reformers but as traitors. The monarchy was abolished, and in 1793, Louis XVI was executed by guillotine. Marie Antoinette, now a widow, spent months in a dark prison cell, her health deteriorating. Her young son was taken from her, brainwashed, and forced to accuse her of crimes she never committed. When she stood trial, she was charged with treason and even child abuse, a false accusation that devastated her. Execution and legacy. On October 16, 1793, Marie Antoinette was led to the guillotine, dressed in a simple white gown. She remained composed until the very end. As she climbed the scaffold, she accidentally stepped on the executioner's foot and apologized, her last words being, "Pardon me, sir, I did not mean to do it." Moments later, she was beheaded. Marie Antoinette's execution marked the beginning of the infamous Reign of Terror, during which thousands, including nobles and revolutionaries, were executed. Though vilified in her time, modern historians have a more nuanced view of her. She was a product of her era, expected to play the role of a lavish queen, yet she was also a woman of compassion and generosity. Conclusion: was Marie Antoinette a villain or a victim? Perhaps she was both, a queen trapped in the crumbling world of monarchy, unable to escape the tide of revolution. Her legacy endures, not just as an icon of excess but as a woman whose life was forever shaped by the tumultuous winds of history. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell for more captivating historical stories.